Alright, today's a special edition. Instead of going to work today, I'm going to court. So I don't really talk about the court cases that much. I had 3 of them pretty much against us, and then one against one of the other one. We had a countersuit, or actually we sued him and then he countersued us. 2 of them are gone. This is the last one. So we have court today. And, I'm not really going to talk about it, but it's kind of the beginning of the end, I'm hoping. So we'll see how it goes. But, speaking of legal issues and stuff like that, when you own a business, when you become successful, you have a target on your back. And I never believed it when I was younger, especially when I didn't have a lot of money or assets or anything. And then as I became more successful very quickly, I didn't really ever structure anything the way I should have. Everything's in LLCs and separate and all that stuff, but there's certain things you can do to protect your assets. So it's always good to have the end in mind when you start something, and assume success. Assume. They say in sales, assume the close, assume the sale. Same thing in life. Assume the success. Plan ahead for that. Don't let it stop you. But have it conscious, be on your conscious that you're gonna have to deal with it at some point, because it's a crappy thing, because what happens is you see envy, you see greed, you see jealousy, you see all these different human emotions come out, and where I don't know, I feel envy sometimes towards people, but it drives me to work harder. If I see somebody having success, I'll be like, well, good for him, but I'm gonna do better. That's kind of my attitude, where other people are like, and depending on, I guess, the dynamics, they feel like they're owed, and they were the cause of the success or whatever it is. And I'm always somebody very humble. I don't brag. I don't rub things in people's face. I mean, the one case went on for 6 years, and it just ended kind of with a whimper, and it just kind of walked away. I mean, I spent a ton of money on legal fees and everything, but I never gloated, I never said anything, and I never will. It's just like, in fact, I almost feel bad for that guy, because for 6 years, just probably the hatred and, again, jealousy, envy, greed just consumed that guy. And he could have done so much more, probably been much happier if he wasn't so miserable and focused on trying to get up on me and whatever. So the biggest thing with the legal thing is you got to look at it and really assess financially. Does it make sense to even fight some of these things? I mean, if I could go back in time to the beginning of this stuff, I probably would have just settled out and been done with the shit. I mean, 5 years, the legal fees, the hassle. If it wasn't for basically divine intervention and an angel given to us, I don't know where I'd be. And I was thinking about this because this family friend of ours who's helping us with the legal issues here, we met with him the end of last year, and my wife and I don't know, at that point, and I didn't realize it at the time, but at that point we were lost. We were just no idea what to do. The legal fees had racked up. We didn't know what to do with those. Other bills were racking up. The business was basically on its last legs. You know, everything seemed like it was collapsing on us. And met with them. And you could tell he was, he wanted it. He was such a nice guy. I mean, such a good person. And he wanted to help, make suggestions and stuff. And it took a while, a little bit, for him to say, you know what, I'm just going to help you. I'm just going to represent you. And that changed everything, because that immediately lifted this weight off of us that was like, because we had talked to other attorneys, and one attorney wanted, I can't remember how much he wanted, it was tens of thousands of dollars for a retainer. Another attorney was kind of wishy-washy about what the case was going to be involved. And I mean, the guy on paper looked like the best option because he was, practiced the type of law that we would need. But the truth is like, sometimes in a legal fight, that's not the best person, because they're going to try to stay within the restraints of what they know, instead of, you want a pit bull in the fight. So there's a thing called scratch test, I guess. This has to do with dog fighting, which I think is the most heinous thing ever, pitting two dogs together till they die. But anyways, you line those dogs up so they're looking at each other before the fight. And it's not the dog that's the loudest barker. It's the one that, you look at the ground, and if it was digging its claws in to try to get at that other dog aggressively, that's the one supposedly you're supposed to bet on. So that's what you want. You want a pit bull. You want a fighter. You want somebody who's gonna not just look at the case in a legal manner. You want to have them look at the whole picture and try to resolve the situation, because like 7 or 8 out of 10 cases settle out of court. I mean, they don't even go to. When we met with the one attorney, he said in these type of cases that we're involved in, that 99% of them get settled out of court, and hardly any of them ever go to trial. Now we're in a situation where, who knows, this thing might go to trial. It's just crazy. But, I don't know. I was so desperate that, they say the power of prayer and manifesting and all that stuff. And honestly, I am a believer. I mean, I've seen it happen in my life many times, and this is just another example of just manifesting something in your life, and then now, I don't know, good begots good, I think. You gotta take this as an example and pass it on. I mean, either good karma back to this individual, obviously, but maybe even other people, and really start helping people out. It's a tough situation, but it seems like things are on the up. Business is starting to do a little bit better. I've got some other things going on in real estate that are pretty exciting, maybe a little bit further out, but like parts of a property that I own that actually can be monetized for a really decent amount of money. So things are moving in the right direction. It's just keeping positive, keeping momentum, making sure keep everybody focused, keep myself focused. And my wife said something interesting the other day. We were talking about something with the business, the contracting business, and I said, yeah, blah blah blah, and she's like, yeah, but we weren't bought in at that time. And that kind of surprised me because I'm like, okay, so there was a switch. I mean, I know for me there was, but I know also for her there was. And I mean, the power of synergy can be amazing. And then my son bought in, and another one of our sales guys bought in, and my wife's daughter, my stepdaughter, she bought in, son-in-law. So everybody bought in together, and we're seeing things turn around and really go in the right direction. So synergy is important, to have the people around you not fighting against you for sure, because can destroy you, but actually working with you, encouraging you, working together, having fun. You gotta, if you're not having fun, why even do things, So it's just all interesting. The other thing that kind of came along, and I don't worship the AI, but it almost seems like it was divine intervention that AI came along at the same time as all this other stuff, because that tool has just changed the game in so many different ways for me. There's things that I'm doing that would have took me way longer, and I wouldn't know what to do with it. Now, what I'm doing now is I'm trying to fine tune that tool, right? So, everybody right now is talking about how go from a chat box to a looping system, or having an agent. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. Because repetitive tasks that need attention, it's really good at. Slowing down here. So, for example, I set up a campaign on Meta for retargeting for our business. So if somebody lands on our website, certain pages are going to trigger certain retargeting campaigns. If they land on like our citing page, they'll get retargeted for citing replacement. If they land on a form to fill, or a free estimate form, but don't fill it out, they'll get retargeted for, hey, let's get that estimate. So that type of thing. But I didn't set any of it up. Claude did. And I've got it set up into a loop to where every morning it tracks the numbers, and it's looking at like, okay, how can we improve this? It emails me a report of like what we spent, number of leads, blah blah blah. And after a week, it's gonna go and then really assess like what we've got and make changes to try to improve, the campaigns. That's something I could have done. I could have set it up, but this thing literally, through what's called an MCP, connects right into Meta Ads and did all the work itself. Made the posts, did the budgets, all this stuff. I didn't even do any of it. And my only thing is it needs to be a self-improving system where you're monitoring the numbers and every week you're making changes to improve. And so we'll see how that works. But that type of looping system is really, I think, the next step in the AI before complete, like, AGI autonomy. Because, there's going to come a time where you can just tell the thing. It'll be like an employee. All right, do this, do that, do this, report back to me, and it'll do it. Now you kind of have to set it up a little bit and kind of prompt it to get to the point. Something interesting happened 2 days ago. Anthropic, like last week, they introduced Opus 4.8 from 4.7 to 4.8, just kind of out of the blue. And people were raving about it. It's great, blah blah blah. And then not even like a week later, they introduced this whole new model called Fable 5, which is it's supposed to be their Mythos, this new model, but they've kind of put it in a safety cage, so to speak, so it can't do nefarious things. I don't know. But so what people are saying is you can just do a one prompt and it will create an entire app. You can do like one prompt and it'll create a whole website. You can do one prompt and you just give it a goal and a reason, and it will create. It'll think through, it'll plan, develop, implement whatever it is you're looking to do. I mean, so I went back and I had a look at some projects I've been working on, and so far it did find one glaring issue that the old model was kind of glancing over. And honestly, it's a pretty serious deadline that was going to be missed if this model wouldn't have came out. So not only the AI coming out helped in my life, but new models are coming out at these fortuitous times, and just, I mean, literally within weeks. If this thing wouldn't have came out and I wouldn't have reran everything, had a deep dive into it, we would have seriously missed the deadline. And literally, it's a big part of our business right now. So so anyways, that's it's I don't know. So I don't know if there's been times in my business career, and we started a business in 2005, and then it was going very well, and then 2008 and the whole recession, economic downturn, all that stuff happened. It was horrible, just absolutely horrible. Nobody was spending money, no one was doing anything. And there was times when we would go into our slow season, which is winter, and we wouldn't know how we were going to pay the bills. And then like one job would hit, like a decent sized job, and it would keep us going. And I know there was at least 2 times that happened in the 20 years we've been in business. And it was just, sometimes success is a little bit of luck. They say luck is where preparation meets opportunity. So, we kept working. We were slow. I remember it was just a couple of us in the office. None of us were getting paid. We were just trying to grind, come up with ideas, do whatever we could to stay alive. And, when that job came through, we were ready, sold it, built it, and that little bit of money kept us going. So, I guess the moral of the story today is, I don't know, I'm not a super religious person, but in the last 5-6 years, I've really kind of came to a place with spirituality and my beliefs where I do believe there's something, something that looks over us, and if we ask, it will provide. And that's, it's a big ask, but whether it's God or, I don't know, the universe, or just power of our own brains, whatever it is, it just seems to work, but you have to apply it. And then I look at things like, I've done okay, I've had a downturn, back on the up. But then you look at some people, there's a young kid that goes around and he interviews people coming out of country clubs and fancy hotels and asks them how they became billionaires and all this stuff. And, they impart their wisdom, and it's like, why is that guy different than me? What is it that he did that's different than what I'm doing? And that's the gap, you have to close. So, that's all I got for today. I'm about to pull into the courthouse here. Wish me luck, and we will see you tomorrow.